All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm happy to see a good group of folks joining to learn more about the Creative Renewal Arts Fellowship. My name is Nikki Kirk. I am the Director of Community Impact and Strategic Investment with the Indie Arts Council. I oversee all of our grant programs, but specifically today we're focusing on this Creative Renewal Arts Fellowship program for the cycle 2024 through 2026. It is an 18-month program. So, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Anna to introduce herself.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Anna Tragesser. I'm a program manager here. I work really closely with Nikki on a lot of grant programs, so I'm looking forward to getting to know more of you better.
So thanks, Anna. So anytime you have questions as you get into the application or guidelines, we are the two folks that can help you sort out whatever those are. Today, I'm going to go through a little presentation just to kind of give folks a framing for what this program is and some examples of it. And then we'll also go into the grant portal itself if you're not familiar with the grant portal, just so you can see what that looks like and how to navigate that as well. If you have any questions as I go, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll also have time at the end for more questions as well. And Anna can help answer anything in the chat as we go. All right. So like I said today, we'll do an overview of the fellowship and its framing, talk a little bit about the purpose behind the fellowship, give some previous examples of what folks have done in this most recent round, and then advice on your application. As a quick plug, we currently have a retrospective exhibition from our most recent round of Creative Renewal Fellows up at our gallery, Gallery 924. It's up through mid-July. So if you have an interest in learning about what the current fellows have done, there's also more information on our website, but you can come into the gallery and see some of their stories. Okay. This is just some images from that exhibition. We have some video stories of what folks have done, some artwork that folks have created, and a number of different experiences. So we'll talk a little bit about all the different options and then beyond that. So your baseline information, these are the eligibility requirements. You have to be within the 8-county donut area to be eligible to apply. So this is only open for folks that are in, let's see if I can get them all, Marion, Boone, Morgan, oh my gosh, Anna. You know the 8-county donut area.
Oh, this is a good quiz. Johnson.
Yeah.
Shelby,
Johnson. Thank
Hendricks.
you. Thank you.
You said Morgan, I think.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
I'll go ahead and put them in the chat.
Hancock as well. So if you're kind of outside of the outskirts, unfortunately, you won't be eligible. So we get a lot of folks, especially from Bloomington, that are interested, and unfortunately, this program is not for them. Also, you'll have to have been an artist or an arts administrator for at least 5 years. So that means for the majority of your income, at least for the past 2 years, should be directly from your work in the arts, whether that's through being working in a nonprofit, full-time nonprofit arts organization, or in your artistry. We do allow folks that have previously received an award to reapply. You're eligible to receive up to 2 awards. If it's your second time applying, it just means that you have to make a stronger case that you need this at this time over someone who hasn't received it before. So it has happened before, but it's not very common. We do give priority to first-time applicants. So Creative Renewal Fellowship, it's really a chance. We like to think of it kind of the framing of, how universities have teacher sabbaticals. It's that framing without the context of being directly for your work, right? So it's a sabbatical to really be selfish and do whatever is going to help inspire and renew you to be able to then come back and do your work, but it doesn't have to have anything to do with your work. Some people do align it as such, but it really can be drastically different. And you'll see that in some of the examples as well. But really think about it as a way, what is something that you've always wanted to do? You know, what is something that's completely selfish that you just focused on you rather than your work and your output, right? Some folks like to use it as a way to collaborate with other fellows. It is an unrestricted grant, so you receive the funding, and we don't ask you in the application, you know, to account dollar for dollar. It's really for you to utilize to help kind of spoil yourself. These are not artist project grants, so I would say the majority of the applications that we get, that other than just the sheer amount of the fact that we have so many applications and not a lot of spots, but the other main reason that folks don't get awarded is often because they apply for an artist project grant rather than an actual true renewal experience. So just keep that in mind. This is not an artist project grant. So stop thinking that right now. It's also not organizational support. Arts administrators, while it's not as often talked about, but it is definitely for arts administrators as well, and not just artists. If you work in a nonprofit arts organization, this is for you as well. The experience itself, so like I said, it's an 18-month program, so it will begin November of this year and run through the spring of 2026. The funding itself is made into installments. So this year, we received an increase in the amount of funding that we are able to award. So it is a $12,000 grant. You receive 10,000 upfront upon being awarded, and then 2,000 after submitting your final report. The activities, the creative renewal activities can happen anytime within that 18-month period. It does not have to last the duration of the 18-month. It can be, you know, one week out of that 18-month period. It can last 6 months. It can last however long, as the activities take place within that period, it is fine. We will ask you for a headshot and probably some documentation of your experience, just so that we can help share your stories and promote that. Nothing has to be super, again, we try hard not to make you create an output for this. Some folks do, and that's fine. But it's not a requirement of this grant. We just like to be able to share your journeys and the impact of that with our funders and with folks that are coming back for the next round and the next round. This is just some research that we did in our round in 2016 that just shows kind of the impact that this experience has often had on folks. And we get testimonials every cycle that this is often a time that very many people have found, like, we don't often take time for ourselves to just do whatever we want and spoil ourselves and be really selfish. And so this is really that experience to be able to do that. And so the being able to have that kind of sense of personal renewal, professional renewal, whatever that looks like for you, is a unique one, and it has had an impact. So these are just some examples of folks from this most recent round that are currently in the exhibition that's up in through July. So again, if you want to come see that, you're welcome to. This little QR code, if anybody wants to scan it, there we have a whole online, and Anna, if you want to put the link to in the chat, that'd be helpful. An online kind of story of what our fellows have done to expand on the exhibition itself. So you can take a look at that, and it has photos and stories and kind of context for what others have done. Um, so Tu Black is a poet, a literary artist. He decided that he wanted to really understand and go to libraries around the world. And so he did that, and it helped him kind of get into this space of, his art project grant would have been being able to write this book, right? But the inspiration to get to that stage, he utilized this renewal experience for. And so that's kind of how it ties for him. But yeah, so he went to libraries in Ireland, Chicago, LA, and Boston, and was really able to focus and get out of kind of that space of just working and being able to really get that inspiration to kind of move forward in this next stage of his work. Other experiences, Sabra Logan, who is, this is a second award for her. Her first award, she was not able to fully participate in. So she is one example of someone who comes back for a second award and made a strong case for that. So she utilized this time to go on a wellness journey and traveled and understand uh, how to utilize that wellness to help prevent some cancer symptoms that she had experienced. So she attended retreats. She looked into wellness and plant-based work, and so that was really helpful for her just to kind of revitalize her own personal journey. And then Ronan Mara, who's an arts administrator, who also dabbles as a writer, but his main focus has always been arts administration, but he rarely has had time to do that because of his work. So he took his break to focus on actually going back and returning to his creative practice and writing, and just taking time to really sit with that rather than focusing on his arts administration career. So that's another example of how folks have kind of tied in the creativity aspect without focusing solely on that work piece. The past round had 40 awardees, so lots more stories to be told, some that have, again, direct relation to their work and to get re-inspired to do their work, and some that had zero to do with it. And both are okay, both are valid. So these are just some questions to ask yourself. If there's certain opportunities that you want to leverage, what is it that you really need in this moment? What is it that you want to experience? What is something that would inspire you? What is something that maybe you've always wanted to do and never had the funding or the time or ability to do? As you're writing your proposal, be kind of constantly thinking back to, is this really about renewing myself, or is this a project that I'm now undertaking that's going to be an added weight? So just really be thinking about what renewal looks like for you and what that actually means in practice. And things to always be thinking about. So it's a $12,000 grant. You have 18 months time period to do any of your activities. So is what you're proposing feasible within that time frame? Is it feasible within that budget constraint? Things to make sure that you're addressing in your application. All of the applications should be submitted online through our portal for easy access for our panel to review. We utilize an external panel for review to try to eliminate some of that bias in the review process. Please be specific. I think one of the things that often happens when we write grants, for myself included, is I think people understand what I'm saying because I'm in my head and I already know what I'm saying. So just make sure that you're being really specific, that that what you're saying is coming across and folks know what what you mean. So that's why we always also advise somebody else to read your application for you, just get an extra set of eyes to make sure that what you think makes sense actually makes sense. We do draft reviews of applications if that's helpful for folks. I believe that deadline is July 10th. So if you're able to submit prior to that deadline, then we're able to do a draft review and provide feedback to you directly via email. So how you would do a draft review is you just go into the portal, you submit the same way you would a regular application, and then we will send you feedback via email and reopen your application in the portal to revert it to in progress so you can go back in and make changes before the final deadline. So that is an option. If you're not ready by that deadline, that's totally fine. Find a friend, phone a colleague, whatever the case may be, find somebody to put eyes on it. Leave of absence form. So this is most relevant for folks that are arts administrators. But if you have to take a leave of absence to actually take your sabbatical, if you plan to travel, if you plan to do whatever the case may be, and you need to take a leave of absence from your organization, part of your application should be a leave of absence form that's signed by your organization's leader or your board, if you are the leader, that just says, yeah, we're cool with this. We, as an arts council, have a responsibility to our arts organizations as well. So we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page before we make our awards. If you're an artist, really not relevant unless you're a teaching artist and have an obligation to an organization. And it really is only relevant if you're taking a good chunk of time off that requires a leave of absence. So it may be completely irrelevant to you, and that's fine. Disregard that. For documentation, so for artists, we do ask you to submit work samples, and that is merely for kind of proof of work to establish your kind of career and your work. For arts administrators, we ask you to provide your resume to make sure that you're providing that proof of work so that we can have that understanding. We've tried previous rounds. If you've applied before, we used to ask arts administrators to submit documentation, and that's proved more difficult for folks because being an arts administrator, you may not have something like that. So we're trying to make things as simple as possible. There you go. And the final application deadline is August 4th by midnight. That is a Sunday. So please note that if you have questions for us and you're submitting at the last minute, make sure you get those questions to us before Friday so that we can get back to you. We will not be answering questions on the weekend. I'm just going to set that boundary now. Okay. So it is a Sunday deadline. So just please take note of that and make sure that you get any questions to us prior to that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll take questions now, and then we can go into the portal and see what we're working with. Any questions coming up for folks?
I have one. The leave of absence form, is that one that you guys provide, or do we just get one from our business?
Yes, there's a link on the portal. So we will ask you in the a question that says, do you need a leave of absence? If you say yes, a link will come up that sends you to a PDF that you can download.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I have one more. For the arts and men applicants, you said we need the resume. Would it be helpful to have examples of our work as well, or do we only need the resume?
We only require the resume, but you are welcome to upload other materials if you think that's helpful.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure I do qualify. I am a minister of music at a church, and it is full-time, but I do other jobs also. With that, can I still technically qualify?
So are you a practicing artist outside of that?
Yes, I do stuff outside of it, but music is my main occupation, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I think music as your artistry, that's obviously totally fine. I think, um, so the distinction for an arts administrator application, it has to be a part of a full nonprofit arts organization. So a church would not qualify in that instance. But you could make a case for yourself as a full-time musician, and then have that as one component of your musicianship, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
I have a raised hand first, so let's go to Cassie and then we can go to you, Don. Thanks.
Hi, my question is mostly like a timeline for the project. Is there a suggested timeline or one that is usually required for it?
No, as long as it takes place within that 18-month period, the timeline can fluctuate. We've had folks that have done their whole fellowship over a weekend, and some folks that have taken the entire 18 months to create whatever they're creating. So yeah, that's totally flexible. Don, go ahead.
Yeah, I work with the Marine Arts Commission, but I actually were not part of the 8 counties. So will there be like a possibility that you could extend, the coverage, not limited to the 8 counties? Like,
Do you live in any of the 8 counties?
not really actually, because I'm actually from Grant County, but will there be a time that you could extend that program to some of the other counties in Indiana?
Currently not. It's not in the trajectory, just because it's funded by the Lilly Endowment and they have restrictions on what they'll allow. They cover the central Indiana region in those 8 counties. So if there is a time when they are okay with expanding that, there may be a possibility, but it just it depends on that funder.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
Hi. My question was, have visual artists in the past used the fellowship for attending residencies that maybe have a workshop component? Or such as, some of the well-known residencies around, right? Wondered if that sort of falls in the category of what's acceptable.
Yeah, I think residencies, retreats, classes, and workshops, I think all of those are components that folks have done previously. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw other hands and I don't know where they came from. Jennifer and then Melissa. Thought there was one other, but yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes, I'm wondering for literary artists, how do you want to see samples of work? Do you want to see manuscripts or published pieces?
Either or, both and.
Right, thank you.
Melissa.
Hi, for musicians, for recordings, is there a length of time, a maximum length of time for that will be reviewed?
So you can upload video clips, audio clips, and links to YouTube. So the length of time we don't restrict, but given that last round, I think we got over 250 applications. So just be mindful of the panel being able to review that. I would say probably each one less than 5 minutes would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other hands? Otherwise, I can go jump into the system.
I have a question. Yeah. I was wondering if there's any major differences between the admin and the artist application, because I make most of my money in the admin side, but also do my own artwork. So if I applied as an admin, could I still upload the artwork?
Yes,
or are they different?
you can still upload the artwork. The application is pretty much the same, except for the artists are required to upload work samples and admins are not. And admins would have an option to upload a leave of absence form if they needed it. So, yeah,
Great, thanks.
but the narrative questions are all the same. I think I saw Sarah, and then we'll go to Adj. I think I said that. And then John.
All right, one more question, then I'm
Okay.
done. What happens if you, for your grant, say you want to go to a certain program, and then during the time period in between, you know, submitting and getting the award, like that program gets canceled? Like, what happens then?
Yeah, that has happened. We ran this program during the height of the pandemic, so we totally get that. You would just email us and let us know that, and then propose an alternative plan. And then we could approve that at that time. Yeah. Adj.
Hey, I was wondering, I noticed, looking at the site very quickly at some of the other awardees, and I noticed that there were certain disciplines that were more heavily awarded than others. Is there a consideration among those who look through the applications for certain disciplines? I don't know, because of the nature of the grant, or like, I don't know, I guess I'm also wondering, as a dance artist, like how to stand out among the other arts disciplines.
Yeah. So we typically will award based on discipline solely by kind of how many applications within each discipline come in. So dance is usually one that we get fewer applications from, which is why we award fewer. But it's not, we don't discount, we don't have a quota, I'll say. So it just happens to happen just because we have fewer applications that way. And it varies kind of cycle to cycle of where some of those higher levels come into. Wendy, then Paige. Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
yes, I'm a filmmaker and I was asking about, I have a reel, which will be able to kind of summation of my portfolio and examples of my work. Do I need to put all of those things within the application, or can it just be simply the reel or just the works?
I think either or. We typically advise at least two pieces of work just to get a sense of your work. I think if it's a reel and it has multiple within one, I think it's fine to do one. But we typically advise at least two just so we can get a sense of that work. And then I think we do up to four just so as to not overwhelm the panel. But yeah.
At the moment, the system will require you to upload 2 samples at minimum and up to 4.
Perfect. Thanks, Anna. Paige.
Hi. I am a multi-hyphenate theater artist where I'm a writer, composer, musician, actor. I do it all. In terms, I'm trying to like
You're fine.
articulate the question. When you have multiple when you're multi-hyphenate and you have like multiple skill sets, it's really hard for me as describing what my work is. It's really hard to kind of condense that to one singular thing. If I were going to apply, would it be better to just pick an outlet?
You mean for your work samples?
Go strictly as a playwright, and leave the music composition out of it, or just present as multi-hyphenate? Because does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's fine to present as you are. There's one question, and we'll see the system in a second, but there's one question that asks specifically, tell us about your arts career. So I think explaining all those different components is totally fine. And then for context. And then as for work samples, because this is on our project grant, and doesn't need to be one specific thing. I think it's fine to upload samples of various aspects of your work, whatever you feel best represents you.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. John, did you have a hand?
Yeah, me. Yes, thank you. I'm a previous recipient, and the question I have refers to, it says, indicate how this experience, meaning the previous one, builds upon, I'm sorry, indicate how this experience, meaning this new one, builds upon your previous renewal experience. And I'm concerned about there being a requirement to link these closely, which it may not at all.
Yeah.
That seems to me anti-creative renewal, but that's the
Yeah.
case. So I want to be able to, I'm still forming what I want to present this time or propose. It may go in a wildly different direction. And the commonality, of course, is that it's also a creative renewal. But other than that, the fact that it may not be the same medium, it may not be the same anything else, I want to make sure that that's okay.
Yeah, the activities themselves don't have to be linked. I think the intention behind the question is more about, you know, why do you feel like you need another one? How is, you know, the experience that you had previously, how is this building upon, you know, the renewal that you've previously had? How do you kind of make the case to do it again?
Okay.
And plenty of cases can be made. So just make sure that you're kind of clear there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before I go in the system? Okay. Let me share my screen here. All right, so some of you may have applied to other things and may be familiar with this. This is our grant homepage, so indiearts.grantplatform.com. On here, you'll see any and all of our open grant applications. Creative Renewal is at the bottom. You can either click directly on here, start application, or start by registering and logging in. If you've already applied to something else or looked at the portal before, you may already have an account. That's fine. So then you would just go here to register and log in. I think I have an account, so let's see. Back to my other one. This is my test account, so. All right. So if you've applied before, you'll scroll down, you'll see everything that you've applied for previously. As you can see, this is very much my test account. Creative Renewal is right here, but again, if you're applying to other things, you kind of just scroll over and find what you want. But you can just click Start Application. So first thing at the top, you'll see this is how many days you have to apply. It counts down to the second. Again, deadline is August 4th at midnight. The name category, so this will be used for all communication. So please tell us what you want us to refer to you as. That can be your artist name. That can be your chosen name, whatever the case may be. Just make sure that that's correct and how you want to be addressed. And then we do ask for your legal name. So if you are awarded, that would be what your check goes to, how you file your taxes. So just if those two things differ, just please make sure to differentiate those. What you have to do, I'm just doing my last name. Before you're able to see all the other tabs for the application, you have to go through the eligibility check. We do that to not waste anybody's time to fill out an entire application only to then find out they're not eligible. So you identify between an arts administrator and an artist. And that changes what questions we ask you, just so you see that. If I'm an arts administrator, I'm asked if I work full-time in a nonprofit arts and culture organization. If I'm an artist, I'm asked, is the majority of my income between from being an artist? So just differentiate that. Do you live within the 8-county district? Yes. Have you been working full-time? Yes. Nonprofit arts and culture organization? Yes. And then these statements, if you've never received one, If you received two, just note that will tell you that you're ineligible. If you've received one before between these distinctive years. So I've never received one. So then you're going to click on this check eligibility button and something's going to pop up and say, yay, you're eligible. And now you can go in and see the rest of the application. It's going to ask demographic information. Please note that we collect demographic information for our own data tracking. It is not utilized to determine your award. We have a note about that up here. There's for each question, there is a prefer not to answer if you so choose. But again, it's used for our own internal tracking. It will not be impact whether or not you get an award. And then you'll have to indicate what county and your mailing address. Again, this will be the mailing address if you are awarded, where your check goes. So please make sure that's accurate and it has all the information there. Project narrative. So describe your experience as an arts administrator or as an artist. If I clicked an artist, it would say as an artist. So just, I can go in and show you the other one, but it's basically the same. What is your plan for creative renewal? How does it have an impact on you professionally and personally? Why is it important for you at this time? So that's a kind of an important one too. You'll see in the guidelines that are listed on our website kind of what the selection criteria is. So just make sure that you're answering and being specific in all of these questions. And then do you require a leave of absence? Support materials. We ask you to upload a resume, work samples. I'm an arts administrator, so I'm not required to upload work samples. I can. I have access to add a link, upload an attachment, whatever the case may be, but I'm not required to. If at any point you start working on it and you're not ready to submit, just come down here, save and close. It'll take you back to your dashboard. You can always find it on that same page where we started to come back and edit it. If you are submitting a draft application, again, you're still going to click this submit application button, and we will revert it on the back end to back to in progress. So you can work on it again after the draft. If you're doing it for the main deadline, still submit the application and then it'll go through the review process. Like I said, you can upload URLs and links, or you can attach a file itself. One thing to note, if you're attaching a file, we advise you to name the file what the content is so that the panel has an understanding of what you're linking. URL, you can add a little extra note here, but you cannot do that for the file. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you're telling us what we're reading. If I say that I need a leave of absence form, yes, then a leave of absence form shows up. I click on this link to download the PDF to be able to get that signature, and then I can upload it here. All right, let me go back and show you the artist one. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right, so same thing. It will ask you to provide your, describe your career as a professional artist. These side notes are just kind of to help contextualize what we're asking, just so that you can help give a more solid answer. So anytime you see anything like that, that's just to help guide you in that question. And then work samples, you'll see now that I've selected I'm an artist. We ask that it's created within the last 3 years, if possible, just so that we have the most recent kind of overview of who you are as an artist. And you can upload any of these files and these file types. Any questions about any of those?
If I could, Nikki,
yeah,
could you jump backwards to the narrative tab? And I want to call this out here because there's been a couple of questions, either directly to me in the chat or just kind of floating around in some things that have spoken out loud. But if you are proposing something that feels a little more like a project. Like it might be true that doing something is renewing to you. That's what we're looking for, are that you have a plan for the activities that you're doing, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that whatever you're doing, help us understand how that has an impact on you professionally and personally, and why it's important for you to do whatever those activities are at this time. Nikki's being really great to call out that we're not asking you to do and do and do. Whatever this proposal and this fellowship needs to be for you, if it is doing some things, just help us understand how that is renewing to you and how it's right for you at this time. Anything else that you would add, Nikki, or clarify around that question?
No, I think that's really helpful. I think, you know, the biggest questions that the panel wants to know is, you know, what are you going to do? Why do you feel called to do it? Why is that going to help you? And why now? You know, it's more kind of set in stone for folks that have applied and gotten awarded before. The why now is probably the bigger piece for you, John, and others who have been awarded before. But I think, you know, because we get so many applications, you know, last round we were only able to award 17% of those that applied, which is really unfortunate. And this year, you know, we do have, we're able to award 50 grants rather than 40, which we've done previously. So there is a little bit more availability to award, but we always just keep getting increased applications. So be really mindful that you're telling your story and telling us, you know, why is this a renewing experience for you, and how that's going to help you in this moment. I also want to lift up some of the questions that are coming in the chat. And so for the sake of the recording and folks that may not be able to read this, I just want to lift them up. As you see, there are no character limits on any of these. So, you know, take your time to tell a story. Don't go crazy. Don't write a novel, because the panel still has to read a lot of applications. But, you know, we don't want to restrict anybody's ability to be able to share what they need to share. Also, there's a question about the artist industry night that's taking place tomorrow. So this is a grant workshop. We also have 2 other grant workshops, one in July and one July 8th and one July 23rd, that are in person. Just so you all know, it's the same content. You'll see the same presentation, so there's no need to go to more than one workshop. You're welcome to if that, you know, floats your boat. But there's no need to do that. The Artist Industry Night, that's tomorrow night at 6, and held here at the Arts Council, will give you an opportunity to see the exhibition in person at the Gallery 924, and also hear from folks from this past round about their experience, and what they did, ask them questions, and also network with other folks that are interested in this. So that's just a good opportunity if you're available. It's 6 to 8 tomorrow here at the Arts Council. And then there's another question here of when fellowships will be awarded. So we will notify folks in October. So all applications are due in August. We will go through the review process in September and part of October, and then it will be reviewed and awarded, approved by our board of directors before being notified a final decision. So by October and then November, activities will start. We have kind of an induction ceremony for all the awardees and their families, just to kind of celebrate them and kind of kick off the fellowship. But all that information will go to the awardees in October. I just received a question. What happens to the funds if you can't award 50 applicants? We've never had that problem. We always have more applicants than we know what to do with. So it's a great question. I don't know. It might go back to our funder. It might be rolled over into the next cycle in 26. So a whole host of things that could happen, but it's never been a problem. We cannot open it to other counties, just because, again, it's the restriction of our funder. Any other questions? I can stop sharing my screen. Any other questions from folks?
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you encourage, I hear a lot of talk about travel and inspiration and this idea of less about making a thing and more about having a professional experience. Would you encourage writing for equipment? If say like you were gonna go for like a road trip and you wanted to buy a microphone or a camera or something like that, would you say that this grant is for that? I'm just kind of curious about what you would say.
Yeah, so from this last round, we noted that it was like 65 to 70% of the awardees decided to do travel as a component of their fellowship, and about 40% of those were international travel. But I think what constitutes under travel too, and the needs within that are flexible. You know, some folks brought their significant other or a friend along with them on their travels, and that's totally fine. I think, you know, being able to pay for the travel, the accommodation, if you know you want to document your trip for whatever reason, I think just making the case that you need a microphone or a camera or whatever the case may be to be able to do that for yourself. I think those are valid. Again, there's no part of the application that asks you to allocate each amount of the $12,000. We don't want your budget. We want the general overview of what are you going to do and what are the kind of components there within, but we don't need an account dollar for dollar. Yeah. Tell me if that answered your question or didn't.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for hosting this Q&A session. It's really helpful.
Yeah. All right, I see a couple of other questions in the chat, so let me, what if the majority of my income is not from my literary work? So the majority of your income has to be from your arts career, whether that's from any component there within. So if that's sales of artwork or literary work or whatever the case may be, if that's performances, if that's teaching artistry, if that's working as a consultant for an arts organization, if that's so I think there's room to kind of play for what that means. Again, it's up to you to make the case for that. We don't ask for your taxes. So just make sure that you're making the case for yourself of that you kind of adhere to that. When you say majority of income, does that mean all revenue or what you have actually paid yourself out? I think that's open to interpretation. Again, we don't ask you for your taxes, so you can decide for yourself and then make the case. If you want to include family in your experience, does a grant help cover everyone's expenses or just the applicant? If it's a component of your grant, then the grant can cover the people coming with you. But just make sure that in your narrative, tell us why it's important that those people come with you. How is that renewing you? Just make sure you're making the case, but absolutely we can pay for people other than yourself. Any other questions? Just had a question. Can you share who the jurors were last time? I believe it's on our website. If you go to the Creative Renewal grant page, I think if you scroll, it's probably towards the bottom, you'll see the jurors from last time. We select jurors are all external. They're all in different disciplines, artists and arts administrators, and have different experiences, and they change every cycle. So, but you can get a sense of who was on the panel previously. Any other questions? If not, this is not the last time you can ask us things. Our general email address, grants@indiearts.org. That will go to both me and Anna. So whoever is more readily available will respond to you. And then make sure that you are aware of the guidelines that also live on our website that also helps answer some of the questions. And we're available as needed. So we have office hours that are listed on the website as well. If you have kind of more specific personalized questions that we can answer, we invite you all to come to Artist Industry Night tomorrow, and come see the gallery so you can get a sense of what other folks have done. Otherwise, let us know how we can support you. Oh, and Anna's linked the guidelines in the chat for anybody that hasn't seen them. Thank you, Anna. And this recording will go up on the website too if you ever need to revisit it, so you can see this again. All right, that's all I've got. So if that's all you need, feel free to sign off, and we'll see you again soon.
I'm sorry, Nikki, I have one other question. I know everything is out there on the website, but there are these links that are in the chat that take us directly to certain places to answer questions for us. Is there any way to get like a transcript of the chat or the links that are in the chat? I'm trying to click them all so that I have them, but I worry that I missed something.
Yeah, if you go to the main Creative Renewal website, and Anna, you can put that in the chat. The main website has all of these individual links on it too. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Anna. All right, thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon. Feel free to let us know how we can help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.